All right, today we're going to take a second look at the antlions, and we're going to look specifically at how to spawn them. So in the game, they are very much a cheap cannon foddery type enemy. They're they're pretty simplistic in how they attack and everything. We don't have to worry about squad tactics or anything like that. They're very simple. They attack Gordon. They can jump and they can burrow. So So what we're going to look at here is how to set up sort of like, if you could imagine that they were in the, like burrowed up in the ground, and it's sort of like ants, right? Because they're insects. So if you were walking through an area, there could be multiple little ant holes in the ground, right? So if you're walking through a field, and there could be many ant hills that when you pass them, they kind of just come pouring out of them, and these guys use sound as their detection, and so when you walk over the surface of their little anthill, they're going to come out. And so what I've got set up here are three sample spawners. So there's actually a single template maker that's creating all of these, and then we choose points on the map that we want the antlions to spawn from when the player gets close to them. So I made these little squares as a visual representation of kind of the range that they'll detect me in. But obviously in the game you wouldn't do this. You would do like a displacement with a little, an anthill, or you would set up some rocks to make it look like they were coming out of the ground or something like that. Now the other thing is they need to come out of certain materials. Now I don't have a definitive list. There might be one somewhere on the internet, but they can't burrow out of any material. So it's normally got to be something that's sand or dirt or rock or something like that. All right, so let's take a look at how this works. So let me reload real quick. So I've got the gravity gun, and you'll notice there's no antlions. And when I come on this thing right here, antlion comes out. So these squares are a rough representation of the range that the antlions can sense my presence. So they're not perfect, but I made them just so that I could see about where I needed to be to get them to spawn. Now if I stay within range, this thing will keep spawning antlions as long as the spawn point is clear. So if I move through this area and I'm walking along, I'm going to get antlions spawning out of these things as I pass over them. Now there is a cooldown on the spawner. Got one. So if I hang out here long enough, I'll get multiples to spawn from here. And sometimes they don't, but normally they do. You can see when they detect me coming onto these. So there's no triggers or anything like that. These are all just, they're detecting my player within range. And then once the player gets close to the anthill, they come out of it. And it'll just keep doing it for as long as there's ants in the template maker. All right. So it's really easy to set up, so let's go ahead and we can do this in any map that you've got a dirt ground on. Sand, rock should work. But let's go ahead and set up the entities here. So we're going to start with this thing here. So this is the NPC Antlion template maker. So it's an entity. You're going to come over here, NPC, and it doesn't matter where you put this. This can be anywhere on the map. Start disabled, no. Number of NPCs, this is how many antlions this can create, so I have it set to 200. The frequency, I'll go ahead and set it to 1 second. And then the max number of live NPCs. What this means is, what's the maximum number of antlions that can be on the screen at one time? So I'm going to say 20. All 200 would really start to lag the game. So what this will do is, if you hang out on the ant hills long enough and you get 20 of them spawned, it will keep 20. So if you kill 2 down to 18, it'll spawn 2 more and get you back to 20. So this is going to try to get to 20. It doesn't have to. Like if you move away from it, it'll stop spawning. But as long as you stay within the range, it will keep spawning until it gets to 20, and then as you kill them, it will continue to spawn to try to maintain 20 of these guys on the screen. All right, now let's leave this for a second and go to the bug here. So this is the NPC Antlion. So you're going to use your entity tool, come over here, NPC Antlion. You're going to drop him, somewhere near the template. That's fine, the template maker. We're going to give him a name. I called him Bug Template. Under flags, I went ahead and checked template NPC. This is important, remember, because these template makers require a template NPC to work. So the template NPC is not going to spawn, but it's the original master copy that this guy is going to use to make duplicates. Let's see, what else? Down here I said start burrowed yes. That's just because I want him to just pop out of the ground instead of just magically appearing in thin air. So I went ahead and said yes on that. Click apply. All right, let's go back to our template maker. Name of template NPC, that's this bug's name. So you can see here it says bug template. The hint group will come back to that, spawn radius will come back to that. So leave these two blank for now. The spawn target is the player. So what this is going to do is it's going to detect, we're telling this that we want to spawn close to the player when detected. So there could be multiple spawn points, but it's going to pick the one that's closest to the player when it comes time to start spawning. So if you create like an open field with 10 or 15 spawn points, when it detects the player near one of the spawn points, it'll use whichever one is closest to the player to start spawning the monsters. All right, so nothing else down here. Under flags, nothing. All right, so let's close that up and we'll come back to it. Now the next part are these things right here. So these are info node hints. So again, it's an entity. Go to your entity tool, come over here, type in info node hint. These they want above the ground. They usually recommend 18 units above the ground or so. It doesn't have to be super precise, but they can't be in the ground. So I usually float them a little bit above the ground. All right. Now we're going to create these. These are going to be the spawn points for the bugs, but they're all going to have the same name. So that's the important part about the way this works. You'll notice in the middle of each one of these squares, I have one of these info node hints. And they all have the same name. Okay, I named them bug hints. All right. So I named them all the same thing, bug hints. Under hint, right here, we're going to put antlion burrow point. Now what this tells the template maker is that this is a location that an antlion can be burrowed in, and we can spawn one in this location. So this is essentially your anthill where the antlions are going to come out of. So I made 3 of them on here, okay, and these are the squares. So when the player comes over here, he'll get antlions coming out of this location. And same thing here and same thing here. All right, so on all of your hints, you want the hint to be antlion burrow point. On the hint group, okay, we're going to name the hint group because the template maker wants to know the group of items that it can choose from to spawn. So we're going to go ahead and put bug hint group. Remember, no spaces or anything here. I used underscores, so bug underscore hint underscore group. All right, so pretty simple on this one. We named it under hint. This is important. Antlion burrow point, hint group, bug hint group. Nothing on the flags. Apply. Close. Now let's go back to our template maker. Okay, so back to the template maker. So we set start disabled to no, number of NPCs. This is the maximum number this can dispense before it runs out. Frequency is 1 second between spawns. It'll spawn 20 maximum at any given time. It'll try to get to 20 and hold it. The name of the template NPC is the name of this guy right here. The spawn hint group, okay? This is that name that we put on the info nodes, the hints over here, right? The hint group. So it's bug hint group, all underscores. Spawn radius. This is how close you get to the thing before it kind of, this is the range that you want to be in, or that the template maker wants you to be to spawn from this particular one. So so if I walk over here and I get within 200 of this one, the template maker is going to try to spawn here. If I walk over here and get within 200 of this one, it's going to try to spawn here. So these boxes that I made, they're about 512. So from end to end here, they're a little more than 200, but it gives me a rough estimate of the distance from the edge here. So walking up onto these, as soon as I get a few feet onto this, I should get within that 200 range. So that's what I made these boxes for, is just to kind of visually represent the spawn range that we've got here. All right, and then the spawn target is !player. So what that means is when the player gets within 200 of one of these nodes, this template maker is going to try to spawn at that node. All right, so let's go ahead and compile one more time and take a look at it. All right, reload the map. Okay, so let me grab my weapon. So the template maker is somewhere here, but you can see my NPC template is gone, right? So it's doing everything it's supposed to. I'm walking around here, nothing's happening. Okay, so I haven't broken that 200 unit radius yet around this info nodes. So once I get up on these blocks here, we know that these squares are 512 by 512. So once I get up on these, the nodes aren't perfectly centered, so it kind of varies from each one, but we know that the node is in the center here somewhere. So it's about, 250 or so to the edge. So as soon as I take a step or two up to here, I should trigger a spawn. Okay? So I could do the same thing on any one of these. And you can see this one fired off another one pretty quickly. Now the spawn point is probably blocked by some of these chunks right now. But if I keep moving, so what you could set these up as is, if you scatter these around a map, you could make it so the player has to navigate, a field or an open area or parts of your map. You can just randomly put these things anywhere on the map. And when the player walks through, there's no triggers required, nothing. And you can see I'm in a good spot right here. These guys are just continuously spawning out of this one. For whatever reason, when I stand right over here, I'm in the perfect spot for it to spawn. There we go. Okay. So that's how to make sort of like an antlion trap. So you don't have to have a bunch of triggers around your map or anything. If you look at how this is set up, this is a really easy thing. You could put this on your map, a single antlion template maker right here, and then everywhere you put one of these it's like it's an automatic detector for the player, and when the player gets close to it, it's going to continuously spawn antlions as long as the player's next to it. So if you put 15 or 20 of these around your map, as the player walks down the street, you could continuously stream antlions out without putting in a bunch of triggers or anything like that. This is a really simple entity to use, and the antlions are, there's something, they're kind of an amusing enemy. All right, so check the assignment for what you're supposed to do with this today, and that's it.